Every masterpiece has its cheap copy. When was Sonic considered a masterpiece? Bubsy is a 90s mascot platformer who was made to compete with the giants such as Mario and Sonic. Can you guess where he ended up? This series has always appalled me. I'd heard through game reviewers with 9 sticks up their butt how awful this game series was and how it was one of the worst things to ever exist, and I had always followed that sentiment. I thought Bubsy was nothing but a joke. I pointed at him and I laughed. I laughed at this creature. The hatred for the Bubsy series was actually so strong that Accolade, the creators of Bubsy, decided that it would be profitable to reboot the Bubsy franchise for a new age just for people to look at it and shit on it again. Something humiliation fetish. But now that I've grown up, matured, experienced my ups and my downs, has my opinion on the Bubsy series changed at all now that I can look at it through a different lens? That's a question we're set to answer today. Nope, I was right, it does suck. Alright guys, today we're talking about Bubsy. This is a real man's episode. I expect all the weenies who can't handle it to get up and leave because things are about to get serious. Okay, so he's a silly little cat, bobcat, with a white shirt on, and he says some funny stuff. So what's the deal about Bubsy? Why does everyone shit on this poor cat? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to go through every single aspect of his life. He's right behind me, isn't he? Bubsy and Claw's Encounters of Tirkind is the first Bubsy game of the bunch, and you won't believe it when I say this, I don't like this game. This game starts out with Bubsy questioning you on what could possibly go wrong as he enters a land of cheese wheels of doom. What could possibly go wrong? So what does this level have to do with cheese, wheels, and doom? I have no damn clue. Where's my gun? This game's first impressions are not great. While the art style is nice and colorful, you're then introduced to Bubsy's controls, which are the opposite of nice and colorful. They tried to make Bubsy control like Sonic, where he speeds up to go very fast, but I think they missed a few notes while copying Sega's homework. The reason why Sonic's speed worked was because you could collect rings to save yourself when it's harder to react while you go fast. Bubsy, on the other hand, dies in one damn hit. There's nothing around you to give you an extra hit point, you just go fast, get hurt, and die. Bubsy also has a very, and I mean very, floaty jump. Like, how the hell am I supposed to control this? And don't be smug and say controller, I see you. Having a high floaty jump can work in certain games if you have the right level design and other stuff. This game does not. I swear, I'm actually scared to jump most of the time in this game because this game has enemies spammed everywhere, meaning most of the time when you jump, you'll hit an enemy, and since you can only get hit once, you die immediately. That doesn't feel fair! And it also doesn't help that the screen is so zoomed in, like you're telling me you couldn't have just let us see a little bit more of the level? Just a teeny bit? No, wanting to see the level in the game is asking for way too much. Fuck you! Bubsy also has a glide, which, yeah, I've seen many cats do that in my day, and this glide would be fun, if I got to use the damn thing. The glide does come in useful to save yourself from fall damage, because yes, this is a 2D platformer where you can take fall damage, but if you can get the glide to work, you can negate the fall damage. Why the hell would you take fall damage in a 2D platformer anyway? But also by using the glide to avoid fall damage, you are just delaying the inevitable because the glide kills you every other time you try and use it. I'm not joking, almost every time when I wanted to use Bubsy's glide, I would almost immediately hit an enemy when I started, which made me just not want to use the damn thing. It also made me not want to play the game either, but that's besides the point. But even with these problems, I think that Bubsy could have been fun to control if it weren't for the level design completely working against you. Like, they wanted to make it feel like you were playing a Sonic game with Bubsy having fast controls and a floaty jump, but the levels themselves are designed more like a Mario game, just not very good. I noticed later in my playthrough that you're able to pan the camera around to see what's in front of you, making the levels much easier to progress. But this just made it for the majority of levels that I played. I would just pan the camera around for a little bit to see how I could progress through the level, go forward a little bit, then repeat. This is not fun, this is not riveting gameplay, I want to die. And even as you get further into the game, you notice that this game doesn't really have anything to offer you that a million other mascot platformers don't give you a million times better. So it just makes you ask yourself, why am I not playing Gex, Rayman, Donkey Kong Country, or Super Frog? What the hell even is Super Frog? Also, one thing that I found kind of funny in this game is that they gave Bubsy 9 lives, you know, like a cat. That's clever. But I don't think that they made the decision to give Bubsy a high life count out of the kindness of their hearts, and more that they realized that the game was designed like a rotting corpse, and decided to just give you a bunch of extra lives to negate some criticism. This does make me wonder though, why didn't they just let Bubsy get hit more than once? I mean, I guess you get to see one of Bubsy's many funny death animations whenever you die, and I won't lie, these are entertaining. I must give credit where credit is due. I like these. Although, I would like to not also have like 5 unfair deaths in the first level. I don't think that that's a very fair trade-off. Like, yeah, we kill you 18 times in the first 3 levels, but Bubsy looks kind of funny when you die. Against all my problems I have with this game and how it's designed, I do like the energy this game gives off. The game gets a lot of flack for Bubsy's constant one-liners and his annoying 90s energy, but I don't really mind this. I kinda like it actually, I'm a freak. I also think that this game has some pretty looking environments, which is nice considering that they're repeated a million times, so at least it looks nice. And hey, the music is also pretty good, which I always appreciate. One problem though, the only way I could encourage myself to beat this game was to play ear-bleeding frequencies through my headphones to get it over with. I may have to consult my doctor about that. But otherwise, yeah, this game sucks. Bubsy doesn't play well, the level design works against you, bad hitboxes, something Bubsy called me a slur, something I hate my fucking life. What could possibly go wrong? I don't know, Bubsy, maybe a 3 out of 10. Even at the time, this game wasn't reviewed the best. Even though it didn't have the legacy that it does today, it was just kind of viewed as another okay mascot platformer. And there were dozens, if not hundreds of mascot platformers that were made to climb up the ranks to get to Mario and Sonic's level, and none of them ever did. And it seemed like Bubsy was just going to be another one added to that pile. But we wouldn't be here now if that was the case. Because that's right, baby, we got a sequel, and the crowd goes wild, woo! I asked for one goddamn thing. Bubsy II. At least they're keeping it simple this time, just titling it Bubsy II rather than some weird thing like the original Bubsy. What the hell does claws encounters of Tirkind even mean? Now before we even get to Bubsy II, this game has a comic book that comes inside of it. Now we can see where the budget went. The comic is supposed to explain the events that transpired before the game, and I really like this way of giving you exposition to the story when they could just put it directly in the game. Most games around this time just write a paragraph or two inside of the game manual, which is fine, like, whatever, but a short comic book is a really cool way to just tell you stuff.
Everyone in this room,
now, I'm not going to pretend this is a marvel in terms of writing. It is not, but it's very cool, so again, credit where credit is due. That doesn't excuse the fact that this game is still pretty garbage. My first impression of this game, Bubsy is a smug bitch. He's too cool to look at you in the main menu. Okay, man, you aren't that cool. Piss off. In Bubsy 2, the main change made to the gameplay is that unlike the first game, the levels do not progress linearly. You have the choice to go through the east or west wing, which give you a different order of levels to play, but to complete the game, you'll have to end up completing all levels in the game. It's more just like a choice of what do you want to eat first, the moldy bagel or the moldy bagel with cream cheese. One's slightly better. This game also has much more interesting level themes compared to the first game. In the first game, you have themes like Grass, Hills, or Wild West, but Bubsy 2 gives you a much more imaginative list of levels. Egypt, space, music, aerial, and medieval are all very cool level themes. The only problem is that you have to play these like 5 times with very minimal changes. Although this game does give you a new kind of levels that aren't in the first game, being shooter levels, these are fine. The level design in Bubsy 2 still has the same issues that plagued Bubsy 1, like enemy spam, random level layouts, but I will say these are slightly better. It doesn't mean Bubsy 2 is good though. Bubsy's controls were tweaked here a little bit, and I guess he feels a little bit better to play, but the level design still works against Bubsy's controls in almost every way, so nothing was truly fixed, he just is a little bit more fun now. And I do appreciate them giving Bubsy a health meter you can refill. That made the game much more enjoyable. My favorite thing about this game, however, is the fact that they gave Bubsy a gun. A Nerf gun. It's called the Ballzooka, adding this to my list of potential pet names. I have no idea why Nerf agreed to give their likeness to this game, but it's a fun addition to Bubsy's moveset. You can actually buy this thing in real life too. I want to know how many kids decided to buy a Nerf Ballzooka because they loved Bubsy 2 so much. I love brand deals in media, okay? This game also got a Game Boy demake, and Jesus Christ, this is awful. This version has the same basic level themes as the original on Genesis and Super Nintendo, but it has some different level designs and whatnot. This version isn't very special or anything, and by going into the problems with it, I'd just be repeating what I've already said. One thing I have to ask though is why the hell does Bubsy fall so slow? He has a glide? That was the least of your problems you need to fix. The first problem you should have fixed is not making the damn game. Bubsy 2 did get better reviews than Bubsy 1, as these games never really got their huge negative reception until the popularization of the internet. But you would think that this would be the last Bubsy game. Like, these games weren't super popular or anything. These are just kind of another game on the shelf at the store. But nope, against all odds, the Bubsy series was destined to live on, with a shitty Atari Jaguar game not even developed by Accolade. Finally, an Atari Jaguar game I can name. Bubsy and Fractured Furry Tales. Are there any good games on this console? The answer is no. First things first, the game actually looks very nice for an Atari Jaguar game, but just like my love life, looks only go so far when the gameplay sucks. Don't think too hard about that. This game has all the problems of the first 2 Bubsy games amplified by 1,000. It is actually crazy. The screen crunch, the huge hitboxes, the level design, the everything about this game is on a mission to f*** you over. While playing the first few levels in this game, I died so many times due to enemies being put in random places, weird hitboxes, and other jank, I just gave up after like an hour. In skimming over some gameplay online, I am not missing much. This game goes for a fairy tale aesthetic for its levels, which I really like, but it also doesn't do anything. These are just basic level themes. I can see no difference between this and just normal grass. The only thing that this game has taught me is that you could not waterboard me to play an Atari Jaguar. What I didn't realize until I compared the dates of all these games is that 3 of these games came out within a year of each other. Even more if you want to count the ports and such. This means that people in the years between 1993 and 1994 were living through Bubsy mania. Thank God I was not alive during this time. But I genuinely have no idea how these games kept getting pumped out on multiple different platforms with merchandise, brand deals, and even an unaired cartoon pilot. Yeah. Back in the 90s, there were a bunch of different cartoons based after popular video game mascots. You got the Super Mario Bros. Super Show with Mario being played by a literal wrestler, fits well, or the plethora of different Sonic cartoons, but somehow Bubsy got a show. It was never picked up. And watching the pilot, yeah, I do want to die, why? But I digress. What I'm saying here is, somehow Bubsy was somewhat of an icon at the time, but after the release of Bubsy and Fractured Furry Tales, the series went on a small break. But then comes the year of 1996, where the third dimension was finally discovered. You had the release of the Nintendo 64 with Mario 64, one of the most influential games of all time, or you had the PlayStation with Crash Bandicoot, which was much more gameplay oriented, and then you also had Bubsy 3D for the PlayStation. Bubsy 3D released a few months after Mario 64, and you would think they would have maybe delayed the game and taken some notes to make the game, better? No. Firstly, this game's opening is painfully bad, even for an early 3D game, like, everything just looks so cheap. This game, like all of its previous entries, is a platformer, which makes sense. I couldn't imagine a 3D Bubsy RPG, although that would have been funny. Your goal is to get to the end of the level, like a platformer. The only problem is that these levels are painfully basic and boring. There are no memorable gameplay segments, no notable level set pieces. It is literally just the most piss-basic 3D platformer with some of the worst controls I've ever had to play with in a game. This game uses tank controls, which is a form of gameplay used for many games that are less gameplay focused. The problem is, though, is that this game is gameplay focused. I've never been the biggest fan of tank controls in games. I always found them just to feel a little bit clunky, but I do like many games that use tank controls, like the original few Resident Evil games or Tomb Raider. But the problem with them being used in Bubsy 3D is that they're way too slow, and you have very little control of Bubsy, which does not work well inside of a 3D platformer. On top of this, the camera also moves above Bubsy whenever you jump, so it makes it so you have to stop every single time you jump to reposition yourself because of the sudden camera angle change. This is disgusting. One of the biggest complaints about this game is that it just simply doesn't look good, being the epitome of 90s 3D graphics, which I agree with, but for those same reasons I also kind of like how this game looks. Like, yes, this does not look good, but it also has a feel to it. It kind of reminds me of an old computer screensaver, which I do like. Again, doesn't mean this game looks good compared to, say, Mario 64. This game also keeps the tradition of the previous Bubsy games by having Bubsy constantly give wacky one-liners to the player. I never minded these in the first few Bubsy games. I always thought that they were charming, they gave Bubsy a personality, which you don't see much in platforming mascots at the time, but oh my god, in this game Bubsy cannot shut the hell up. Especially early in the game, while playing, Bubsy constantly feels the need to say something snarky, as well as non-stop breaking the fourth wall and talking directly to the developers. Normally I would like this because it shows that the creators are self-aware, but this game seems to have Bubsy do this because they weren't confident in the game itself, which is honestly kinda sad. This game is how we got the iconic line of, what would a platformer be without platformers? Which I actually kinda like this line, it's pretty funny, I won't lie. I will not fall for your manipulation, cynical game reviewers, I find Bubsy funny. Never mind, he does not shut up. This game was reviewed terribly at the time, like really terribly. So bad that Accolade took a step from their muse Bubsy for a long time and made some other games. But as websites like YouTube and other places, which are often used to review games, were popularized in the mid-2000s, Bubsy was one of the most talked about characters, and that wasn't a good thing. These games were slammed by critics online, and deservedly so. These games suck. But all this gave a huge resurgence to the character of Bubsy we've never seen before. He was a laughingstock. But after many years, Accolade became aware of the new legacy that Bubsy had and realized, hey, maybe it would be profitable to make a new Bubsy game, as a joke, ironically. So in 2017 came the release of Bubsy's The Woolly Strike Back, the long-awaited return to the Bubsy series. So in 2017 came the release of Bubsy The Woolly Strike Back, the long-awaited return to the Bubsy series. And the crowd goes wild, woo! Again, one thing! This game thankfully goes away from the 3D-styled gameplay seen in Bubsy 3D, and back to the still not great 2D gameplay of the original Bubsy games. Going into this game, I wasn't sure what to expect because this is a modern game. The expectations made for a game in 2017 are much higher than a game made in 1993, but it doesn't seem like they looked at how much they can improve the Bubsy series, maybe even change how the series was viewed in the modern age. This game definitely isn't as bad as the previous 2D Bubsy games. In fact, I would say I enjoyed some of my playthrough, but this game is still pretty bad. This game modernizes Bubsy's controls, and while he still plays relatively the same, there are some notable changes. Most notably being able to chain together jumps and being much less floaty, so yeah, they did improve Bubsy's controls in this game. Good job. Too bad the level design is still awful. I mean, it doesn't carry over all the flaws from the older games, but it still has its flaws, like its painfully weird level design and enemy spam. But this game just feels so damn basic and honestly kinda dead to play. Like, I can't explain it, but nothing really feels real. Well, it's a video game, it shouldn't feel real, but this game just has no charm like the other Bubsy games, and it feels like another basic 2D mascot platformer. And this game did not review well whatsoever. It got such awful scores that you would expect Bubsy to just die out and never be seen again. Still somehow no. Evidently, this game must have done somewhat well despite its negative reviews and reputation, because this game somehow got a follow-up in 2019, being Bubsy Paws on Fire. This game is worse! This game goes for more of an auto-scrolling shooter form of platforming compared to Woolly Strike Back, but I cannot explain to you in words how dead and boring this game feels to play. I would say on average it has somewhat better level designs than the previous game, but it's just so boring. I could be doing anything else besides playing this game. What, you might ask? I don't know. This game's backgrounds, level design, and everything never go through any major changes as you play through the game, so you just kinda have to turn your brain off and play it. And now I like games where you can just turn your brain off and play, like my brain is more comparable to applesauce and an actual solid object because of how much Subway Surfers I've played in my lifetime. But I don't know, I cannot play this game. It is so boring, and even though this game got relatively better reviews compared to the game that came before, it is very clear why this is probably going to be the last entry in the Bubsy series. I can't say I'm sad, because, well, these games are mediocre at best and terrible at worst, but I will say, Bubsy has an unmatched legacy, so he's kind of iconic in his own sort of way. And just like an actual cat, Bubsy had numerous lives, somehow escaping death over and over again. But it seems that Bubsy's luck finally ran out because he was gruesomely ran over by a truck in the middle of the neighborhood. It's quite sad. But yeah, this is my short look back at the Bubsy series, and I can't say I had really any fun, because look at these games. But it was a part of gaming history, and for that, I'm proud. Am I happy with myself though? No, leave me alone.